Please be seated in the courtroom. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the delay. We had another matter we were required to take up outside your presence, so my apologies. This witness has been sworn outside your presence. He is under oath, so you may proceed when ready.
Tell the jury your name.
Scott Swick, S-W-I-C-K.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a Texas Ranger with the Texas Department of Public Safety.
Would you briefly describe your training and experience in law enforcement?
I went through an initial police academy in 2003 before joining DPS in 2005. Through DPS, it's another 6-month police academy. I initially was in the Texas Highway Patrol until 2013 when I became a Texas Highway Patrol Sergeant. And then in 2014, I became a Texas Ranger. Through that, on the Ranger Division, there's crime scene, 4th, 5th, 6th Amendment type training more in depth than what you would have in the initial police academy.
And is the crime scene training for you the same as it is for all the Texas Rangers?
To a point, the initial is, and then several of us have specialties that we get into that might be different than that.
Okay. On May 24, 2022, were you, did you make it to Uvalde County, Texas, Robb School?
Yes, sir.
And on that day or the next day, were you assigned a specific area to search?
Yes, sir.
And
Mr.
what
Trevor,
area was
can
that?
you use your microphone?
What area were you assigned to search?
Classroom 112.
And have you reviewed the photographs to Classroom 112? Is that a fair and accurate depiction of your work?
Of the work of the team that we're with, yes, sir.
And we re-offer your own the exhibits that were noticed outside the presence of the jury.
During our conversation, that's fine.
Yeah, I believe we made a record on the ones that were admitted, and they are admitted. You may proceed.
Thank you. Starting with Exhibit 756. The exhibit has a yellow marker for one of the rooms. Is that the room 112?
It appears to be, yes, sir.
And is that the room that you searched?
Yes, sir.
And that's the room concerning these photographs.
Yes, sir.
State's Exhibit 757. Could you tell us what we're looking at here?
So the doorway on the left is going to be 112. The doorway on the right is going to be 111. This would be a view as if you were standing in the hallway looking at those exterior door faces.
And did they have an adjoining door within the classroom that you could go back and forth between?
Yes, sir.
State's Exhibit 758.
So this is a close-up view of door 112 that also depicts several bullet defects into that door coming from the exterior towards the interior.
And Exhibit 759.
Once again, another close-up of that just to give you a depiction of the bullet defects I spoke to.
Does 759 depict a window in that door?
Yes, sir.
And what is the condition of the window?
The window has damage due to gunfire, to defects.
And are there gunfire defects in that door?
Yes, sir.
Would you point them out?
Your Honor, may I stand up?
Yes, sir.
So you have a defect here, these circular defects. You have 3 coupled right here. One here. Looks to be one right there. It's hard to tell here in the glass, but you have several within the glass as well.
Thank you. And can you tell from looking at those defects if they're from the hallway into the room or from the room into the hallway?
The ones in the door face itself, we were able to determine they were from the hallway, from the exterior hallway in towards the interior of the room.
And something kept you from determining the glass breakage, if it was from the hallway or from the room?
It was our determination that day that they would have been similar, once again from the hallway into there. Some of them you could tell by the concave of the glass itself, but some of them you couldn't necessarily tell due to the damage that you had, but it appeared to be consistent with the rest of it, which was exterior to interior.
Thank you.
Yes,
In showing you State's Exhibit 780, would you kind of show us the general outlay of the room?
So this would be as if you stepped into the threshold of that room 112 door. So you're standing, if you would, just on the interior side of that. viewing straight down that what would be the wall, the purple wall or the blue wall, you will, on the right, excuse me, would be the south wall. The wall straight ahead with the window in it would be the exterior east wall of that classroom of 112.
And so the wall that's right next to the doorway and goes all the way to the window, that is fairly free of pools of blood, is that correct?
There are blood stains there, but the majority of the blood stains are not in this area.
And the back wall, are they fairly free of pools of blood?
Yes, sir.
And so would you describe to the jury in the room where generally the pools of blood were?
So the areas of blood stains in the room, you can obviously see some on the floor here in front of you in this picture, but the majority of the blood stains that my team located was going to be what would be considered the northwest corner of the room. So once again, if you're looking at this picture back to your left in that corner of the room.
The corner away from the doors and the windows?
Yes, sir.
State's Exhibit 761. Excuse, yes, 761.
This would be a view from the 112 door, but this would be the interior door face. So once again, you're inside room 112 looking at what would be the interior door face of that room door.
And 762.
This is another view of that from a different angle to show you the bullet defects through that door towards the interior of the room.
And is there a bevel on one of those gunshots?
There is the bevel he's referring to. If you look at the gunshot furthest to the right, it gives that bulge look to it, where you can see where the energy of that projectile going through the door pushes that door frame out. That's what he's referring to.
And Exhibit 763, would you tell us the general location of 763?
So 763 is going to be, once again, you're inside room 112. You're just in front of the entrance of that door we were looking at. You're looking, this is viewing back on the floor, back towards that, that east wall where that window was at. But this is going to be the floor view that you're looking at here.
And does it show things specifically on that floor?
Yes, sir. There are several defects in the floor that you can see. The gray areas that you notice on the floor, which are going to be would appear to be ricochet rounds from projectiles hitting the floor.
And Exhibit 764?
764 is the exterior door face of the closet door inside room 112. What you notice on that door, once again, the gray areas on that door where the paint is peeled back are what appears to be shrapnel defects onto that door.
And is that closet door directly across from the entryway into 112?
Yes, sir.
Exhibit 765.
765 is another view of that door from the lower bottom third of that door, if you will, below the handle.
So the first view was above the door handle, the second view is below the door handle, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And Exhibit 766.
766 would be the brick wall, the stone wall that's directly behind where that door you just viewed was. So once again, this is going to be the west wall of that classroom. That's the window, the grayish area is that window that you saw earlier. And this is going to be a picture of what appears to be shrapnel hits on that white brick.
And is it once again directly across from the doorway to 112?
Yes, sir.
And so I believe if you described a pathway from the hallway through the doorway all the way across the room, leaving shrapnel across all the way to the back wall,
Yes, sir.
would that shrapnel and that pathway be dangerous to people in 112?
If somebody was standing there, yes, sir.
State's Exhibit 767.
So 767, once again, this is going to be the interior face of the door. You're inside room 112 looking at that main door entrance. And then down below that, it's a view of evidence marker 1, which for these rooms we use green versicones or evidence markers. So for these purposes, we put a G for green, so G in this case 1. So this would be evidence marker G1 depicting a fired cartridge case.
And Exhibit 768.
It's a close-up view to show the 2 fired cartridge cases of G1.
And quickly, of the cartridge cases, did you find more than one kind of cartridge case in 112?
Yes, sir.
And what, was there one single one that was not an LC?
That is correct. There was one singular non-LC22 cartridge case.
And was that found in the teacher's desk?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So other than in the teacher's desk, all the fired cartridge casings were LCs
That's correct.
and rifle casings?
For room 112, yes, sir.
Okay. And so I'll just allow you to shorten your testimony then and just say another cartridge casing if you see one.
Yes, sir.
Fair enough?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And Judge, at some point, we've got to caution the jury and the audience that some of these pictures are going to be a little gory and bloody.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, as throughout the course of this trial, we have some graphic photographs, so once again, be aware of that, and if you need to step outside, you're welcome to do so. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. And did you just take the photograph, or were the photographs taken where they were found?
Yes, sir.
Weren't responsible for depositing them there, just accurately depicted where they were?
These photographs are depictions of how we found them when we entered the room and processed that crime scene.
Thank you. Exhibit 769.
769 is another close-up of G1 with a what we call an ABFO scale, or a measurement scale, if you will, that's down below that fired cartridge case.
And 770, is that number? 770, excuse me.
That is appears to be just a close-up of what you showed right there on the G1.
771.
So 771 is a mixture of evidence markers. You have the green ones I referred to that was the evidence we collected. The yellow alphanumeric evidence tents that you see there, they were put there before we were processing the scene. So once again, the rangers and investigators that entered that room prior to our arrival, those alphanumerics depict where bodies were located within that room prior to their removal.
And on the far left side, could you describe what structure we're looking at there?
On the far left side is going to be so that wall would be the hallway wall, or the west wall of that classroom. You have a table that goes the length from where the entry door, room 112 door is, all the way to that, which would be the north wall, with various items on it. And then below it is a black curtain that was essentially there, kind of blocking the view of what was underneath that table, such as the supplies and so forth.
Was that table with the black curtain large enough for a person to crawl under?
Yes.
And be away from inside the room?
Potentially, yes, sir.
State's Exhibit 772.
772 is a close-up of a fired cartridge case with the G2 marker.
773.
773 is the G3 marker with a fired cartridge case.
776.
776 is a G4 marker with a fired cartridge case.
778.
778 is the G5 marker close-up with a fired cartridge case.
779.
779 is the G6 marker with 2 fired cartridge cases.
781.
781 is the G7 marker with a fired cartridge case.
And does this marker 7 approach this pool of blood in the corner
Yep.
of the hallway that we saw the dog view of?
Yes, sir. That is in the north, what would be considered the northwest area of the classroom.
784.
784 is a close-up of a fired cartridge case with G8.
786.
786 is a close-up of a fired cartridge case associated with G9.
787.
787 are several fired cartridge cases associated with G10.
Would you point those out?
You're on the map.
Yes, sir.
You've got a cartridge case here and a fired cartridge case here that we went ahead and designated with G10.
Thank you. 790.
790 is a close-up of 2 fired cartridge cases associated with G11.
791.
791 is a fired cartridge case associated with G12.
792,
792 are several cartridge cases that are associated with G13.
794,
794 is a close-up of several cartridge cases that are to the left of G13.
and would you locate those cartridge casings in the room for us?
You
I
want
mean,
me
where
to-
would they be in the room?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're asking where they are in the room?
Yes, sir.
Those are going to be, once again, the northwest area of the room. That blue piece of equipment that you see at the top of the picture there was just to the right of that filing cabinet, if you remember, from that corner of that northwest area of the room.
Thank you. 796,
796 is a picture of a fired cartridge case associated with G14.
and are they at the very top of the photograph?
Top and in the middle, sir. You've got two at the top and one with the ABFO scale.
One in the middle of the photograph and two at the top.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Exhibit 800,
This is going to be a picture of fired cartridge cases associated with G15.
and is there one under this, underneath a obstruction?
Yes, sir. You've got one to the left of G15, and then you've got one with the ABFO scale, which is up underneath a piece of equipment that was there inside the room on top of that carpet.
Exhibit 802,
802 is a picture of G17, which at the top of the picture there is a what we call a PMAG magazine, which is what the unfired cartridges would go into for a weapon.
and what was the condition of that magazine?
Empty.
And is there a second marker on there?
There is G16.
And how many rounds does that magazine hold?
30 rounds, sir.
Exhibit 803,
803 is once a close-up of G16, which is a fired cartridge case.
Exhibit 804,
804 is a close-up of G17 depicting that black empty PMAG magazine.
and so after 30 rounds are fired from that mag, what has to happen for the gun to be operational again?
For a weapon to be operational, once you, if you're firing a rifle in this case, you would have to drop this magazine, which eject it from the weapon, if you will, place a new magazine that has unfired cartridges into it, and then put it into battery or put a round into the chamber.
And did you find more than 30 casings in this room?
Yes, sir.
Did that indicate to you whether or not a magazine had been changed?
Yes, sir.
And what was it? That it had been changed?
There were more than 30, which would indicate to me that a magazine had been changed in the room.
Thank you. Exhibit 805,
805 is G18, which depicts fired cartridge cases.
Exhibit 806,
806 has several things in here, starting with G19 at the bottom, depicting fired cartridge case. G20, which is another picture we'll show, depicts fired cartridge cases on the lip of that whiteboard. And then you have G24, G35, and G39 in that picture also.
and where is the hallway in relationship to this photograph?
The hallway would be, if you would, at a 45, kind of straight ahead. So this wall that you're looking at would be the north wall of the room. So if you follow that wall straight up, that would lead you to that where the hallway would be in this classroom, or off this classroom.
And as to the backpacks, did you examine the backpacks also?
Yes, sir.
And would you tell the jury what you found?
There were multiple bullet defects inside of these, or through these backpacks.
And those backpacks are hanging almost to the floor, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Exhibit 807,
Close-up of G19, which is the fired cartridge case.
Exhibit 808,
This is a close-up of G20 depicting the fired cartridge case on the lip of that whiteboard.
where normally markers would go.
Yes, sir. I guess you could put markers in that. Yes, sir.
And Exhibit 809,
This is a close-up of G21, which is shows you more fire cartridge cases on the lip of that whiteboard.
Exhibit 812.
812 is a close-up of G22 depicting a fired cartridge case.
Exhibit 814.
814 is a close-up of G23 depicting a fired cartridge case.
Exhibit 815.
815, once again, has several markers in it, marker G14 and marker G24, depicting fired cartridge cases as well as depicting some of the blood in this scene.
And as to the wall depicted in 815, how would you describe the condition of that lower wall?
There are bullet defects in that wall that are going to be, if you see the hooks in that picture, below those hooks, and then some also into that 2x4, if you will, where the hooks are in.
And going back to Exhibit 24, right next to the wall, Exhibit 816.
So G24, this is a close-up of a what would be copper jacket from a projectile.
Exhibit 817.
817 is a close-up of G25.
And 818.
This is another close-up of G25 showing once again a copper jacket from a projectile.
Exhibit 819.
819 shows G26 and then G13 again, as well as some yellow tints in that northwest corner of the classroom.
And would you place this photograph in the room? Where would that be?
The northwest corner of the classroom.
Exhibit 820.
820 is a close-up of G26, which is a fired cartridge case.
823.
823 is a close-up of G27, which is a fired cartridge case.
825.
825 is a close-up of G28, being a fired cartridge case.
826.
826 is a close-up of G29, showing a fired cartridge case next to G11.
829.
829 depicts several things. So this is a black bookcase, if you will, that was to the left, as you're viewing it, to the left of that blue piece of equipment that we talked about a second ago. In this beige area to the left of it, it's showing it being hugged up against that filing cabinet in the northwest corner of the room. This shows both a piece of evidence being G30 and then shows a bullet defect associated in that area depicted as G, once again, for the room we're in, and then BD. Sorry, was it 2B, I believe I'm seeing?
Okay. And were you able to trace the pathway of that defect?
Yes, sir.
And showing you at Exhibit 830, has the black bookshelf now been removed?
Yes, sir.
And what are we looking at now?
So the bottom of the photograph would be the area where the bookshelf is. In fact, you can see the void next to the wall where that bookshelf was at. You have if you're looking at the filing cabinet, the right exterior face of that filing cabinet with several bullet defects on it.
And were you able to tell a general origin of where that shot would have come from?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell us about that?
So once again, you got several defects there. The first one I'll start with is the bottom left. You notice it looks like there's some gray area, several marks, if you will, in that. That was determined to be a terminus or an ending point of a projectile, and that grayish coloration you see is what is referred to as lead splash, which essentially is a microscopic portion of that lead projectile striking a surface. To the right, you have another bullet defect that is going from left to, as you're viewing the photograph, from left to right. So in other words, somebody to the left of this photograph, or a projectile, I should say, from the left of this photograph is coming from that direction into that filing cabinet. And then you have the same thing in that top left one as well.
And does Exhibit 832 show a close-up of the description you just gave us?
Yes, sir.
And would you show us those two things that you just described?
So once again, going to what's labeled as GBD2C, that's the 2C is a corresponding. So a while ago I referred to one being 2B. So the way that we're trained, the way that we depict bullet defects or document bullet defects are if we could tell that they're corresponding. In other words, one bullet defect goes with another bullet defect. We'll also give it in alphanumeric order, so A, B, C, D, to show the order that those defects occurred, if you will. So in this case, it was our belief that 2C was in combination with that 2B that we showed you earlier that was going through that bookshelf that once again led to some lead splash and a terminus dent in that area. To the right there is GBD4A, which we couldn't, in other words, we couldn't find a corresponding prior to, so we went ahead and labeled that with an A to show a perforating defect, which means it's going in through something. In this case, the right exterior side of that bookcase with a trajectory of left to right.
And Exhibit 833?
833 is a close-up of what's labeled as GBD5A. I believe it says 5 or 6A. I can't tell from that photograph, which once again is a perforating defect in the side of that cabinet.
And did you also find defects in the front of that same filing cabinet in that northwest corner of the room?
Yes, sir.
Showing you Exhibit 835.
So this is going to be a view of GBD6A. Once again, as you're viewing the photograph, you have a trajectory of, in this case, right to left. So in other words, the projectile was coming from the right side of this filing cabinet towards the interior, perforating inside that filing cabinet.
So this defect did not occur from the doorway of 112?
No, sir. This defect would have occurred from interior inside of the room.
And about where would that have come from?
There's no way to tell that other than to tell you that based on looking at that defect, it's coming from the right side. I can tell you from the view of that, it wouldn't have been deep. It would have been somewhere probably along the wall, what would have been the north wall of that room, in that northwest corner, if you will, or the west side of that room.
So crossing from the doorway all the way over to the other side of the room, that's where that defect would have been fired from?
Yes, sir. It would have come from, yes, sir, inside the room on the west side of that room.
And
Or excuse me, north side
when
of
you
that
opened the
room.
filing cabinet, did that give you further indication of the route that bullet took?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
As you opened the filing cabinet, did that give you further indication of the route the bullet took?
Yes, sir.
Showing you Exhibit 836, what are we looking at here?
So when you're looking at 836, if you look next to that handle, that's the defect you just viewed that we just spoke to. So you can see inside this is manila folders with several documents, but you can see gunshot residue and splash from that bullet that, once again, as it's going through the picture that we saw a while ago, now it's interior inside of this book or this filing cabinet, and going through and perforating through that manila envelope.
So the pathway was almost parallel with the front of the...
Yes, sir. Once again, come from that north side of the room.
shelving cabinet, okay.
Yes, sir.
Did not come from the doorway.
No, sir.
Exhibit 837.
837 is a picture of one of the backpacks that was found, and then on this, what would be considered, as you're looking at it, I guess the right side of the backpack, you can see in the mid portion of that backpack a defect.
And 838.
This is a close-up of the defect I spoke to.
Exhibit 839.
So 839 appears to be a picture of G24.
Okay. Is there also depicted in 839 a pink backpack by way of reference?
Yes, sir. Yeah, there's a pink backpack with a pink and black backpack, yes, sir.
Okay, just north of that is the pink backpack?
Yes, sir. Are you referring to the one at the top of the picture there?
At the very, yes, sir, toward the top, right next to the wall, kind of a pink and blue color.
Yes, sir.
I just asked that for reference for the next exhibit, 840.
It's going to be G35, so the backpack you're referring to, that multicolored pink backpack, and then below that you have a fired cartridge case.
Thank you. Exhibit 841.
So 841 shows a view of G30, which is sitting on top of a rolling piece of equipment for like a TV.
And 842.
This is a close-up to show a PMAG that's partially underneath that equipment that's labeled as G37.
Another one of these magazines.
Yes, sir, an empty magazine.
And what condition was it in?
Empty.
So that's 2 empty magazines holding 30 shells each.
They could hold 30, yes, sir, but there were 2 empty magazines.
Thank you. 845.
So 845 is a picture just forward of that last one. So inside, or if you would, on top of that carpet, but bunched up, shows G38, which is fired cartridge cases.
And 848.
848 is a close-up of G39, which is a fired cartridge case.
849.
849 is a close-up of G40, depicting 2 fired cartridge cases.
850.
850 is a mid-range shot, if you will, of G41, depicting a piece of projectile.
And 851.
Once again, a close-up of G41 to show you part of that projectile, that fire projectile.
And 852.
852 is a close-up of G42 depicting a fired cartridge case.
854.
854 is a close-up of G43 depicting a fired cartridge case.
855, is that giving us a general location of a desk?
It is, sir.
Did you find anything in that desk?
We did, yes, sir.
Showing you exhibit 856.
So 856 is a picture of one of the pieces of plastic drawers, if you will, that was on that desk. And then you could see that there's a fired cartridge case inside of that drawer, which was open. That's how it was when we found it.
Was this the one that was of a different make?
I'm not sure if this was it or not.
Fair enough. Exhibit 859.
859 is a close-up of that same thing, depicting it with marker G45.
860.
So 860 is a picture of the window on the east side of the room. So once again, if you take yourself back to being inside that room, you just entered door 112 and you're looking straight ahead, and you remember there was a wall with a window on it. So this is going to be that window. When the curtains, the gray curtains are pulled aside, you can see that there's mini blinds there, and the defects you see appear to be shrapnel defects in that mini blind.
Exhibit 863.
So 863 is a depiction of the north wall in the room, the whiteboard you see on top, a couple backpacks there, but more importantly, you have defects that are both in the wall there, and then once again in that 2x4 portion up underneath that whiteboard.
And would you point out those defects?
Your Honor, ma'am. Please. So once again, you have several defects. You have one right here that we're depicting with this picture. There's several other ones there, but this is going to be the one we're referring to in this picture right here.
And exhibit 864.
864, once again, you have a coupling of a grouping, I should say, 4 defects labeled there in that same general area.
And 865.
So 865 is shown below that area or in that general area, but you see defects on the wall portion beneath that dry board.
And are there 5 depicted there?
Yes, sir.
And are all of them general characteristics similar ovals?
Generally speaking, yes, sir.
And how about the one on the bottom left?
That one is different as far as the look and how it was deposited there.
Does that indicate to you a different origin, or the weapon was in a different position when that defect occurred?
No, sir, not necessarily. It could have simply been due to a substrate struck prior to going through something to cause that. Not necessarily a different position.
Explain that to us.
So when a bullet is fired from a weapon, in this case a projectile exits the gun, whether that's a pistol, rifle, doesn't matter what it is, essentially it goes downrange, if you will, right? It goes forward of that weapon. Generally speaking, it goes in a straight line with a little bit of an arc to it. And if left unimpeded, it'll eventually lose energy and either fall and or strike something forward of it, right? Depending on where you're standing or the angle of the projectile as it exits that weapon will then correlate to what you find for the substrate that it hits. So in other words, if I'm angling to my right, I would expect to find a left to right trajectory of that weapon, right? If I'm angling it from my right side, I would expect to find a right to left trajectory, if that makes sense. If it's a fairly 90-degree circle, well, then that tells me that somebody was shooting essentially perpendicular, if you will, to that substrate. Now, with all that being said, that's a perfect scenario. In other words, it hasn't struck anything. When a bullet travels through things, you heard me say perforating a while ago. Well, perforating means it's gone through a substrate. It's not just stopped, it's gone through it. And when a bullet goes through something, it's going to start losing energy. It can start tumbling on its axis, but essentially it's going to give different views, if you will, of how it impacts the subsequent substrates that it strikes as it goes through. So in other words, those perfect circles or those angled defects can then become very ragged, if you will, due to those variables.
So that if a bullet went through a desk, a school desk or something like that, that exited the other side, then a lot of irregularities occur with that.
It could be, yes, sir, absolutely. I would expect to see that, yes, sir.
And did you see indications of that during your search?
Yes, sir.
That bullets went through desks or seats or chairs or other furniture?
It appeared, yes, sir.
State's Exhibit 868.
So 868 is a viewpoint again. Once again, that north wall beneath that whiteboard. This is a view with trajectory rods, which are devices that we can insert into defects to give us angles and routes of travel.
And does that accurately show the routes of travel that y'all decided from doing your crime scene investigation?
Yes, sir.
And Exhibit 870.
So 870 is a depiction of bullet defects on the whiteboard itself.
Thank you. Pass the witness.
Do you want me to start, Judge, or do you want to?
How long do you anticipate?
Might be a little while with him.
Very vague.
I don't want to hold myself, I don't want to lock myself into a time, Judge. It depends how we answer.
Members of the jury, when we recessed for lunch, we had passed the witness for cross-examination. So, Mr. LaHood, when you're ready.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Ranger.
Good afternoon.
My name is Nico LaHood. We've never met before, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, pleasure to meet you. I'm one of the three lawyers that represents Adrian Gonzales. And you've testified before, I'm assuming?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you know how this works. It's cross-examination. I'm going to ask you some questions, and if you don't understand my question, just ask me to repeat it, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you went over some of your training and your kind of your specialties. I'm not going to go through your academy and being a trooper and then being a ranger and then going to a ranger school. But you mentioned something that caught my attention. You said, I think the government asked you if everyone is trained the same. You said some have specialties.
Yes, sir.
Oh, what do you mean by specialties?
So within the Texas Ranger Division, we have certain rangers that have gone to additional and more advanced shooting reconstruction schools. Me myself, I'm one of the instructors for the bloodstain pattern analysis program, so I've had additional training in that realm of things. So that's what I was referring to when I say that we all have the same foundational training, if you will, and then from there go on to different things if that's what it calls for.
Got it. Well, part of your training is you've trained in firearms.
Yes, sir. I have had firearms training.
And you continue to train in firearms every year.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you've been trained in tactics.
Yes, sir.
And so you understand security and safety, and you've worked on school cases before, I'm assuming?
What do you refer to by school
I
cases?
mean, any type of school shooting, active shooting in a school?
As far as an active investigation,
Yes,
I
sir.
believe Robb was the first active school-related shooting, but I've been involved in other mass casualties. Yes, sir.
Okay. Mass casualties is a better way to describe that, generally. Have you ever been in an active shooting situation yourself as an officer?
No, sir.
So and not a lot of officers have been in an active shooting, actual situation. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. Yes, sir.
So an officer or a law enforcement individual that has an opinion based off their training, not a lot of times it's because of actual being through that scenario.
That's a fair statement. Yes, sir.
Okay. So now I want to direct your attention to the actual investigation that you did. You showed some pictures, and you showed pictures of room 112 and 111. You recall those?
Yes, sir.
And we saw the defects, and that's a word that I think the jury is acclimated to now. A defect means what to you?
In the realm of shooting reconstruction,
Yes, sir.
it means where a projectile's entered a substrate.
Okay. And it's affected that substrate in some form or fashion.
Yes, sir.
And are you a trajectory analyst?
I've had training in it.
Okay, so have you testified on trajectory analysis before?
No, sir. I can't recall that I have in an actual trial setting.
Okay. Well, this won't be the first, but I may ask you some questions about that. But in relation to those pictures of the doors, we saw a number of defects on the doors. You recall looking at those pictures of 112? You're going to get it up for us
Gotcha.
right now. 112 and 111?
From the hallway?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Here they are. May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
I'll direct your attention here. And so we see a number of marks, defects on these doors, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you notice any defects on the handles?
Defects on the handles?
Yes, sir.
Not
Or
that
around
I-
the handles?
Not that I recall.
And you looked at them on both sides, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the locking mechanism is on the handles?
There. Yes, sir.
So is it fair to say that you saw no defects affecting the handle and the locking mechanism?
Not to my knowledge.
And so with your expertise and your investigation, so if somebody went into these doors, most likely, it's probably that these doors were not locked.
I can't speculate to that. I can just tell you how they were found when I got there.
Well, the locks weren't damaged.
The law, I can say that. Yes, sir.
Okay. And I was just asking if you use some common sense. If locks aren't damaged and people got in the door, then they were probably, and I know there's a probability in your profession, they were probably not locked.
You would take that into account, yes, sir, and then hopefully look from there to decide,
Right.
get that answer, yes, sir.
And you came to know it being part of this investigation that those doors were not locked. Did you come to that knowledge at some point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So my question about the probability matched up with the reality that those doors were not locked.
That's correct.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you about some tactics. Okay.
Okay.
You've heard of something called a fatal funnel.
I have.
Can you describe to the jury what the fatal funnel means to you?
So a fatal funnel a lot of times is described too when you're entering a threshold. So, for example, you've got a doorway in front of you, and if you get sucked into that doorway, that's the funnel, if you will, or in this case, the fatal funnel, because if you have a threat on the back side of that room and you don't approach it tactically correct, for example, that's what the fatal funnel is. You can put yourself in a fatal position on how you approach and how you go through that room.
And you said if you don't approach it tactically correct. So may I stand up, Judge?
Yes.
And so when you're entering a dangerous situation where there's deadly force potentially being used, you don't just walk into the situation like this and try to handle a circumstance, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, you do or you do not?
No, I would not.
Yeah. So there's a tactical way of doing it. There's a tactical way of doing it.
There is, yes, sir.
And when we say tactical, meaning safety for you and for the people that you're trying to protect.
Yes, sir. More so myself, just giving myself the best advantage of being able to approach that situation.
And you're not being selfish when you say more for myself, right?
Not in that statement, no, sir.
I can tell, and I know what you meant by it, because a police officer that's dead is no good to anybody, right?
That's correct.
So you need to be alive and be able to protect people so you can minimize the loss of life.
Yes, sir.
You ever heard of a blue gun?
Yes, sir.
Okay, those are practice guns. There's an orange one too, right?
Yes, sir.
Will you believe me if I tell you that this is not a real weapon?
I'll take your word for
Will
it.
you believe that we have the bailiff check with this?
I believe. Yes, sir.
This magazine can't come up. Would you like to inspect it? Or you
I'm good to go.
Okay, and so when we look at tactics, there's a way to tactically hold this weapon and a long rifle or a handgun, correct?
Correct.
So this would be a low ready.
Correct.
I don't even like the fake gun pointing at people. This is a high ready.
Yes, sir.
This would be a side ready,
Sure.
and this would be Sewell.
Yes, sir.
And we explain to the jury what Sewell means, what the Sewell position is.
As you can see, he's got the gun sucked to his midsection. It's just a way to have the gun safely pointed down, but at the same time close to your body, and it's a way that you can easily re-engage a target if need be.
And re-engage, you mean go from a Sewell position into an active shooting position, correct?
Correct.
And so the 4 gun safety rules are always treat a weapon like it's loaded, correct?
Correct.
Never pointed at anything you're not prepared to kill and destroy.
Yes, sir.
Always keep your finger, I like to say high and outside the trigger guard, but at least outside the trigger guard.
Yes, sir.
And this is the trigger guard.
That is.
And this would be the trigger.
Correct.
And always know what's behind your target.
Yes, sir.
Those are 4 gun safety rules that everybody that carries a weapon, especially law enforcement, should know immediately.
Yes, sir.
And so that's why a Sewell position is important tactically when you're approaching a situation, because you don't want to do something. I'm going to do it to Jason because he doesn't care. You don't want to sweep somebody. This would be called sweeping them, right?
Yes, sir. When you point the barrel at him.
When you point the barrel at somebody, and that means that if the barrel's pointed at somebody, even if your finger is indexed, at some point it could go off.
Correct.
Right? And so when you tactically enter a room or a situation, you have to make sure that you're safe so you can engage the threat, but also make sure that other people are safe, because I'm not going to go in sweeping people and then under pressure there might be an accidental discharge.
Yes, sir.
Right? And so that's what you mean by tactical.
Yes, sir.
And so when we go in, when you, law enforcement, go into situations, you have to think tactics before you enter a dangerous situation. Right?
You have to have that thought in your mind. Yes, sir.
And one of the things when we talk about tactics and that fatal funnel, that fatal funnel is important because law enforcement officers in any department are taught to always, to the best of your ability, avoid a fatal funnel.
That's a fair statement. You don't want to put yourself in a bad situation once again.
And a fatal funnel is something like a doorway,
Yes, sir.
a hallway.
In my training, it's always been a threshold, but yes, in a hallway, that presents a whole different set of circumstances and the way you might approach that as well.
May I stand up again, Judge?
Yes.
If this is a hallway without the chairs here, and I'm rounding a corner, and we're gonna talk about slicing the pie in a second. And so if the judge, not that he's a threat to me, but if he was in our example a threat, and I turn this hallway, and these are all walls, I'm in a fatal funnel because the judge is the bad guy in our scenario, can shoot me, and I have nowhere to go to get cover. Right?
You could be in a bad situation.
Right, and that can happen not just in a hallway, but if this was a building, and I'm coming across a building, this could be in essence a fatal funnel because I have nowhere to go.
At the end of the day, any position you're in could be a bad situation. It's all about what's going on, the variables involved, and how you approach that.
And let's talk about some of those variables. And so, what is the difference? The jury's heard this a little bit, so you can do it briefly. Concealment and cover. What's the difference?
So concealment would be something that you can get behind and conceal yourself, if you will, but may not stop a projectile. And cover would be something you can get behind for the concealment once again, but that you would expect to potentially stop a projectile.
Right. And may I use the well, Judge?
Yes.
And so, I'm going to set up a little scenario here for you. Can you see me?
No, sir, I can't.
Am I covered or concealed?
You're concealed in this circumstance.
Okay. And so we're gonna. You're familiar with the term slicing the pie or cutting the pie.
Yes, sir.
And what does that mean? You tell us to the jury.
So once again, taking you back to the threshold I spoke to a second ago, when you slice a pie, if you will, you're taking it piece by piece. In other words, as I'm looking into that room and I'm taking steps and gaining more of a view of that interior room, I'm slicing that pie, if you will, as I'm going through those steps.
You're slicing your visual. So I can see. I mean, you can't see what I'm looking at. I see some of the jurors, and I'm little by little slicing this room and you can't see what I'm doing, but they can see, and they can see little by little, they see me as time goes on, and so I am slicing the pie and checking for any threats, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay, and so I'm gonna age myself, you look a lot younger than me. I watched Starsky and Hutch growing up, right? You remember Starsky and
I
Hutch?
do, yes, sir.
Oh, wow. How
I'm
old
not-
are you? How old are you?
Well, I know of the show. I remember I've watched
You're not
it.
a woman, so I can ask you. How old? I'm 53. How old are you?
I'm 43.
Okay, you're young. So I'm 53. So in Starsky and Hutch, the old days, no one does this. No law enforcement officer goes to the actual cover and pins themselves, bunkers themselves against the wall, right?
Correct.
This is a disadvantage tactically. I don't want to be here like this because I can't see, and someone can come around the corner, and for me to have to do this, I'm exposing myself to the threat,
Yes, sir.
right? And so slicing the pie, you can't see me, right?
No, sir.
And I'm gonna point this. Do you mind if I point this at you when I make the cut?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You do mind or you don't mind?
No, you can do it.
Thank you. And so if I'm here and I'm slicing the pie, I'm little by little, I'm there. Now I can see you, and I'm covered. I'm truly covered by this. I don't have to be on the wall. Matter of fact, you don't want to be on the wall. You want to be at some distance so you can slice. And then as you slice, then you make entry, and you'll start working into a room to try to clear the room, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And that's tactics.
That is.
So bad tactics would be expecting an officer to get close to a wall, right, and to make that turn from that cover position.
That could be considered a bad day, yes, sir.
That's a bad day, right? And are you familiar with the term in gunfire, echoing?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Like an echo. Like when firearms are discharged, there can be an echoing sound.
There can be, yes, sir.
Right. And the larger the firearm, the larger the echo.
I would agree with that, yes, sir.
And would you agree that it's hard to tell, especially with echoing on buildings, where gunfire is coming from?
It could be, yes, sir.
Right, it's challenging. You're outside, it's open, there could be a vibration off this or an echo off a building, and then trying to determine where this is happening if you don't have a visual, it can be difficult.
Can be. That's a first statement.
And so, would you agree, as a law enforcement officer, you should never rush into a situation without assessing it?
To a point, yes,
have
sir.
have you heard of the term OODA loop?
I have.
Will you explain to the jury what OODA loop means?
So OODA loop, in lack of better terms, essentially means you're considering something, and your OODA loop is your thought process, your functioning, and typically you'll hear somebody say, well, I messed with his OODA loop, which means whatever you did could have interfered with that thought process, or what somebody might have perceived, or the way they would have acted, or so forth.
Can we break it down a little bit?
Sure.
Okay, so OODA loop, the first stands for observe, right? The first O is observe.
Yes, sir.
So you get into a situation, try to observe what's happening. Yes, and part of it is listening and hearing from witnesses, or what you're hearing or how you're feeling, but it's observing your circumstances, right? Correct?
Yes, sir.
And the second O is orient. Because after you observe what's going on, you have to orient how you're going to respond to this situation, right?
Yes, sir.
And then the D is decide.
Okay.
Right? You decide what you're going to do, and then the A is act on it.
Okay.
So that's a process. Would you agree?
It can be, yes, sir.
And then someone can go through several OODA loops in one incident, one situation. Because new information comes to you, and then you cycle that OODA loop again, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so, I'm going to talk about some specific tactics. Yeah, Perch?
Yes.
I'm handing you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Yes, sir.
Will you please review 7, 8, 9, and 10?
Okay.
And you recognize Defense Exhibit 7 as the corner, the southwest corner of Robb Elementary, correct?
Let me think about my direction here. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, and then Defense 8, do you mind if I stand behind you?
Yeah, please.
Thank
yeah.
you. It is an overview of Robb Elementary showing the south side and the west side,
Yes, sir.
and the east side essentially.
Yes, sir.
And then Defense 9 is a similar but a different angle pulling away from Robb, facing the west side.
Yes, sir.
And 10 is a bigger view, but also bringing in groves and the street in front as
Correct.
well.
Yes, sir.
And would you say that defense exhibits 7, 8, 9, and 10 are fair and accurate depictions of Robb Elementary, to your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
Judge, I'm handing to opposing counsel defense 7 through 10, offering it into evidence.
No objection?
Submitted.
We're going to look at defense 8. Am I first, Judge?
Yes.
So this is Robb Elementary, and I want to, I'm not trying to give you my back, but I want to make sure we understand. So this would be the west entrance? Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That would be the south,
Yes, sir.
east, and then here's the north. There's not an entrance, but, so this is where that monster came into the elementary school, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then matter of fact, this is a police car from your knowledge of this investigation. This is Adrian Gonzales' police car. They left it in the same position.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
I wasn't outside for this, so I can't. I've heard about it, but I wasn't
Okay.
there. So.
Well, if I represent you, that's Adrian Gonzales. You have no they'll correct me, I promise you. You
Sure.
have no reason to disbelieve me.
Sure.
Okay, so you can see that if this is Adrian Gonzales' police car, and where he went into the circumstance, he's into the situation, he acted and did something, the monster entered over here, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in your training experience and just practical in life, you've been to this area, is there a line of sight from way southeast of Robb Elementary to the west?
Not from that position.
Matter of fact, the school is in the way.
That's correct.
Right? And so it would be impossible, not probable, not unlikely, impossible for any human being to have a visual of what's going on the west side of this building from where that car is.
From the
correct?
ground. Yes, sir.
Now, tactically, if somebody was hearing gunfire, could you tell in your training experience, or have you even heard of somebody being able to tell that's coming from the west side of a building, just from being in a situation similar to this?
That's a lot of speculation on that.
It
Once
is a lot.
again, I mean, number one, you have to be in that situation. I mean, on one hand, I can understand if somebody was there and they're saying they can't, but on the other hand, if somebody says they could, I wouldn't dispute that either.
You would not. I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. It's a lot of speculation you started with. You're saying that you've heard of a scenario where somebody can be in a okay.
No, I'm not saying a scenario. What I'm saying is
Okay.
based on my knowledge, I can see if somebody was there and if they're trying to tell me they can't hear anything there, I can potentially understand because of the circumstances, but at the same time, if somebody told me they could hear something there, or if I was to understand that you did hear something there, I wouldn't disprove or dispat that either.
So if somebody is discharging a high-powered rifle, are you saying that you've heard of anybody with the training experience to determine whether they're on the west side or the north side of this building? From this position, can you tell if you hear someone discharging a weapon, you can tell between west side or the north side where that fire is coming
No,
from?
what I'm saying is if somebody's on that side of the building discharging a weapon and you're on the complete opposite side, to your point, could they be on the north side? Yes. Could they be on the west side? Yes. What I would say is he's not right there where they're at, but he is somewhere on that side of the building.
Well, what he would know is it's not on the south side because he's on the south side.
I would assume that,
right?
yes, sir.
And he has a somewhat visual of some of the east side.
Correct.
Right? Because there's an L shape, so he's got some of the east side. So just he can deduce that he's not on some of the east side and definitely not on the south side.
I would
correct?
agree with that, yes, sir.
And in your training experience, if somebody made the claim that there were multiple gunshots from a high-powered rifle from the west corner of this building, this way,
Mhm.
southeast, you would expect to see multiple defects on the building.
Not necessarily. no,
Not
sir.
necessarily. And
No.
if they were shooting up, maybe that you wouldn't, right?
Correct. I can tell you from my personal experience, we saw one on one of those, but I was involved in that documentation, if you will. So I know that particular one that was on a building on that side. I believe it was in front of where that car is, or somewhere in that general area.
Was it at the bottom of the building or higher in the building?
It was up high.
Okay. And if somebody claims to be on the floor or close to the floor, and someone is shooting at them with a high-powered rifle, would you think you would see defects on the bottom of the building or higher in the building?
It just depends, sir. It depends on angles of fire. It depends on any variables in between them, like once again, shots hitting something prior to their objective, if you will.
We'll talk about ricochet in a
But-
second. I'm just saying, is if you're sitting down, correct?
Yes, sir.
And if they're trying to prosecute a case on me for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, because that red orange gun was the real gun, and I
Yes.
shot at you, and thank God I missed. Would you think you would see defects around the chair and around the desk, or up in the ceiling if I shot at you?
It just depends. So once again, with my experience in investigations, just because you don't have a defect, if you're crouched down like you said, and I'm working that scene and I see no defects behind the area that I believe that you were crouched down, I wouldn't automatically believe necessarily that he missed or he wasn't intending to hit you there, or she for that matter. Because once again, in my experience of investigations, just because somebody's shooting at you doesn't mean they hit where they're aiming.
So in a court of law, if there was a claim that I shot at you 30 times, where you're sitting right there, you're saying it's reasonable to a jury that there would be no defects behind you, not even one?
I'm not saying it's reasonable. What I'm saying is if you told me there was no defects back there and somebody was shooting at you, and we could prove, assuming we could prove that they were shooting at you,
Sure.
that wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for me, simply because of my, once again, everybody has different shooting, experiences and training and what have you. But at the end of the day, I'm not saying that it didn't happen that way. What I'm saying is essentially is that if you have somebody that's saying they got shot at 30 times and there's no defects behind them, that would maybe initially make me say, okay, what are we dealing with here? And then work the investigation from there. But could it be that they shot high, shot low, or whatever the case may be? You have to take those into account as well.
Okay. I want to make sure you said a lot. I want to make sure you said assuming that we could prove that they shot at you. How would you prove that someone shoots at somebody? Without a video. How would you prove that someone got shot at?
You would potentially prove it by by interview processes, by eyewitnesses. It could be other things besides a video potentially.
You mentioned only two, and both of them had to do with people's opinions.
Okay.
Okay. Aside from someone's opinion, objectively, how would you prove that somebody was shot at?
You would hope to find defects in that area to
And that's-
corroborate that.
Right,
Yes, sir.
and that's all I was saying.
Okay.
In general, defects. How about shell casings?
From where they were shooting.
Well, back to our example. I'm going to go low just because I have. If there's a claim that I shot at you, there's 15 rounds in this magazine.
Yes, sir.
I shot 15. I extracted the magazine, loaded it, and then came back in 15 more. How could we objectively prove that I shot 30 rounds at you?
So typically speaking, you would expect to find in your scenario 30 fired cartridge cases on the ground or in that general area. Once again, assuming that they didn't have a catch or something like that going on.
Yes, sir. And a catch meaning something to catch the shell,
Correct.
right?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
But if they didn't have a catch, these rounds are going to be coming out to the right, correct?
On a right-handed firearm, yes, sir.
And so the objective, aside from eyewitness, because you mentioned the two things, eyewitness testimony, things of this nature, but aside from that, so you would find shell casings at some point to my right, not to my left, right? If I'm claiming to shoot from here.
Once again, not trying to be difficult, but
Okay.
from my experience as an investigator, once again, could they be to the left? Absolutely. And that's simply from the standpoint of, did they get moved prior to my arrival, right?
Okay, but that means somebody interfered with the scene. I'm talking about naturally
Okay,
evidence.
gotcha.
So right. So if there's 30 rounds, you're going to probably see 30 shell casings to my right.
In that scenario, you would expect to, yes, sir.
Because the ejection port is on the right side.
Correct.
Okay. And so objectively, how would you prove that I fired 30 rounds at you? Two objective ways.
So once again, find out where that person was shooting, find those cartridge cases potentially to corroborate what you're hearing or the evidence you're seeing. And then once again, like I mentioned, the testimony or the defects down the range.
Well, the objective parts are the defects, right?
Yes, sir.
So there should be some defects around you or behind you, and there should be shell casings to my right.
In that scenario, yes, sir. Yeah,
Yeah,
you would
in the
expect
scenario that
you would expect to find cartridge cases to link up to the defects that you find, hopefully downrange.
Right. And you were investigating a homicide, correct?
Yes, sir.
But actually, it was a mass murder of children, right?
Correct.
And an attempted capital murder of police officers.
Yes, sir. That could be correct too. Once again, I'm looking at a crime scene 112 in this case.
But you know now what happened. You know that animal shot at children and shot at police officers.
Correct.
And that animal is no longer on this earth.
Correct.
And Adrian Gonzales is not that person who did all that horror that we saw on those terrible pictures, right?
Adrian is not Salvador.
I want to do one more thing. Let's go to number 10, please. Am I approach, Judge?
Sir,
Okay, so this is a different aerial. Robb Elementary, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm doing my best not to block the jury here. Same west entrance here,
Correct.
south,
Correct.
and we saw Adrian's cars over here on the other picture, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, you know now that there were 3 other officers on the scene before the shooter went into the school, right?
I can't speak to that, no, sir.
Okay, if there were, because a lot of other people can speak to that, if there were 3 officers roughly here, they would have line of sight to the west entrance, correct?
Assuming that vehicles or what
Yeah.
have you may not be blocking their view.
Yes, sir. And assume, we'll put another assumption that is a fact, that if you don't know, that one of them had a long rifle, one of them had an AR-15.
Okay.
That would be a weapon that is more capable for reaching that animal before he went into the west building versus the handgun that we were using as an example earlier, correct?
A rifle is a better long-range platform, yes, sir.
Right. And so the people on this side, the 3 officers on this side, had line of sight, would have had the opportunity, in our scenario, opportunity and the ability to stop the shooter from entering the school.
Are you telling me in your scenario that there's nothing in between their line of sight and that door? Because once again, I don't know. So.
I understand, and I'm glad you're being cautious. I'm just saying, let's say in my scenario, one of the officers asked for permission to shoot this animal.
Okay.
Would you believe that if he asked for permission to shoot, that that person was in his line of sight?
I would assume so.
That's the witness. Thank you, sir.
Has his line of sight changed if somebody's moving?
Yes, sir.
Could you pull that back up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mr. Hood? Mr. Hood?
Yes, sir.
Could we lose the consent?
Oh, I'm sorry, Judge.
Thank you.
You didn't like it?
Couldn't see it. That's not unusual.
Just from the photograph of fence exhibit number 10, if we have 3 officers by this ditch, and we've seen a video of the gunman actually running or jogging to this doorway,
Yes, sir.
that indicate that he's moving.
Yes, sir.
And would a vehicle conceal line of sight from an officer down here?
It very well could.
And would this vehicle also?
A vehicle.
A vehicle, depending on
Yes, sir.
the parking lot.
Yes, sir.
But you could see them for a short vehicle, but they're moving, they could then become no longer available.
That's possible. Yes, sir.
So it could be a very short window of time in which the officer could see that person.
That very well could be. Yes, sir.
Okay. The second thing I wanted to ask you about, your exhibit number 8, if I could.
Yes, sir.
The defense was talking to you about if you're here where Adrian Gonzales' vehicle is.
Yes, sir.
And you're not sure if the sound is coming from the west or the north. Do you recall those
I
questions?
do. Yes, sir.
If you do hear shots fired at an elementary school during a school day, and you're not sure if it's here or it's here, do you stay by your car?
I would not.
What would you do?
I would make the best decision I could and go towards those shots.
Go toward the shots.
Yes, sir.
Is that how you're trained?
It is.
All law enforcement in Texas.
To go towards the threat. Yes, sir.
So you would make a move one way or another.
I would like to think I would. Yes, sir.
You wouldn't stay.
I don't believe I would. No, sir.
You wouldn't wait for cover.
I would not in that scenario.
Wait for other officers to arrive.
No, sir.
And if other than shots, you had a witness telling you where the shots would come in from, would you consider that?
I'm sorry, rephrase that?
If you had a witness standing in front of you telling you where the shots were coming from, would you use that information to decide where to go?
I would.
Not just the shots, but what people were telling you.
I would in that scenario.
Thank you.
And finally, the hallway. I believe you testified that a threshold is what you considered a fatal crime. Was that correct?
Yes, sir.
And could you show the very first Just take just 1 second, John, until we pull that exhibit.
Okay.
That's it. Looking at the exhibit, it shows exhibit doors 111 and 112.
Yes, sir.
Is that a fair and accurate representation about the doorways in that hallway?
Yes, sir.
And is that consistent all the way down the hallway as to all the rooms?
To my knowledge, yes, sir. The majority of the rooms.
And those doorways, are they inset?
They are, yes, sir.
Is it a place on down the hallway you could hide
That's correct.
and be concealed?
Yes, sir. Somebody could be concealed in that scenario.
So fatal funnel being a threshold, a hallway could be a fatal funnel, or there could be areas of concealment.
You're asking if the hallway can be areas of concealment or a fatal funnel?
Yes.
Once again, my knowledge of a fatal funnel would be a threshold. I would consider a hallway a little bit different scenario. Tactics still apply in that scenario, but to your point, in this type of school and this type of insets, you could also be concealed as well.
And if you have an active shooting outside of a schoolway and then inside of the schoolway, would a fatal funnel then prevent you from going in?
No, sir. Once again, you want to assess it the best you can, right? And these things happen quickly. And to your point, whether somebody gives me information or whether I believe, either I know, I believe, or somebody gives me information, you try to make the best decision. But ultimately, with my training, I would like to think that in that scenario, I would be quickly trying to approach where I believe that threat was to address that threat.
Okay. And you've had the training as a police officer
Yes, sir.
in tactics as well.
Yes, sir.
And when you go in through a threshold, you were just talking about a doorway, correct?
I am. Yes, sir.
Once you get in, things can spread out and
Correct.
be concealed.
Correct.
Correct. And movement helps, does it not?
It can. Yes, sir.
And also, as tactically, you can walk through a doorway, I guess, standing up like this, make yourself a big target.
You could.
Tactically, can you change how big a target you are?
You could.
Can you squat?
You can.
Can you get down even lower?
Yes, sir. You could.
And that would present a smaller angle than someone standing in the hallway.
That could. Yes, sir. Depending on the scenario, but yes, sir.
And would you have to approach the south doorway before you could approach what would be called a fatal funnel?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
I mean, are you in a fatal funnel if you're standing by Adrian Gonzales' car?
Any position you could be in, whether it's inside, outside, hallway, room, or whatever the case may be, you could be in a position that is not advantageous to you, tactically speaking. So, from that regard, is how I would probably answer that. Because once again, fatal funnel, it could lead to other things and other tactics, if you will, bad or good. But bottom line, no matter where you are, no matter what position you're in, you could present yourself to that.
Okay, fair enough. Pass the witness.
I sure do appreciate your honesty, sir. I mean, because you answered one of the questions I'd like to think I would. I don't believe I would. And I love that about that you answered that way, because that's honest, right?
Yes, sir.
You don't know until you're in that situation,
That's correct.
right? And so I want to talk a little bit about what you hope that you would do and not do. Number 7, please. May I approach, Judge?
Yes, sir.
So this is that corner, southwest corner, and this is that AC unit, and this is that west side of the school leading into the entrance.
Yes, sir.
Do you agree that cutting the pie with that AC unit there with that fence is different than cutting the pie as if it was not there?
Yes, sir.
Right. Because this is not cover.
That is not. No, sir.
This is not even concealment. I mean, if I ducked behind an AC unit,
Correct.
maybe
Yes,
right.
sir. Right.
But if I'm trying to use that setup,
The chain link itself is not.
right? I mean, it's not even. You can see me. I mean, I don't even know why I'm trying to cut the pie. I might as well just run in. That's nothing for me from a tactical position.
Once again, short of getting down behind an AC if you need to.
Right, but if we're talking about running after people and chasing a noise, not a person.
Yes, sir.
Remember, we're still in this chasing the noise. So this complicates negotiating this corner. Would you agree with that?
I don't know that I would agree with that necessarily because you could go around it, obviously.
Right, but as you go around it, as you get far, you don't have cover or concealment.
You don't, but you didn't also leading up to it in that scenario.
You did, but what I'm saying is it blocks you, so you can't move past it quickly. You have to go around it.
Once again, sir, I wouldn't say it that way because I can go around it just as depending on the angle you're coming at. I'm not trying to be difficult, but what I'm saying is if you're in this scenario, if I'm further to the right and I'm trying to go around it, it's never in my way to start with.
Let me ask you this. Is this exactly the same as if it wasn't there? Is that corner the exact same tactically navigating by it as if this AC unit and chain link fence is there?
And once again, to answer that question would depend on which angle I'm coming in at. If for some reason I'm coming past that door and I'm hugging, or not hugging, but necessarily close to that wall, where in other words that AC unit is directly in front of me, well then that obviously presents a potential issue, right? As opposed to if I'm 3 or 4 steps to the left in this scenario and I'm trying to get past it, it's not in my way anymore, so I'm going right
It's
past
not, but are you covered or concealed?
No.
That's what I'm saying. So if there's danger on the other side, it's not that it's going to stop you. It's not a barrier
Gotcha.
to you, right? And it's a bad question, so I'll take the heat for that one. But it's not that it's going to stop you. So I agree with you on that. I'm saying from a tactical safety position, if you're trying to stop hurt and death, if you don't even know it's happening, by the way, right? Let's go back. Just because you hear gunfire, that doesn't mean people are getting struck by that gunfire, correct?
I would personally take it as they were because if somebody's shooting, they're shooting, in my mind, at something or somebody.
But it doesn't mean that people are actually getting hit, though. They may be missing.
It may be, but I have to assume they're getting hit in that scenario.
And remember I asked you earlier about the 30 rounds, and
Yes,
you
sir.
said maybe they missed? I mean, so I'm just,
Yeah.
it must be in your
Gotcha.
thinking somewhere. All I'm saying is that it's not a barrier to you, but you have to negotiate around it. And if we're trying to consider your safety, like you said earlier, so you can help the most amount of people, it makes it more difficult for you to be safe and tactical around that corner. That's all I was trying to ask you earlier.
Right. If that AC
Right.
unit is in my line that I'm trying to get to, could it potentially? Absolutely. But at the same time, I could very easily move over if I needed to get around it.
And you would not be as safe doing that.
Possibly not.
Right, tactically. Can we go to 9, please? Here's a little bit different of an angle. It's in evidence. So there's the vehicle over there, right?
Yes, sir.
Law enforcement
Yes,
vehicle.
yes, sir.
And so let's assume, now remember, let's assume you hear shots and you're told that the shots are coming from over there somewhere. Okay? You're saying that you would automatically run to the shots without considering tactics? Because there's no cover here or concealment, right?
If I believe that the shots were coming, you're asking from this side of the area? Personally, I believe I would run as fast as I can to get to that corner where the tree is by the AC unit, which is, yes, sir,
Here?
right there.
Okay.
Because I know the threat in my mind would be on this side, maybe up there, maybe down there, but I don't believe in that moment it's over there, so I would have gotten as quickly as I can down to that corner and then start assessing things as I'm moving forward.
And we're speculating, we're hoping that's what you would do,
I would
right?
hope so, yes,
And
sir.
But you're not, this is not a covered or a concealed situation.
What's that situation?
In your scenario where you're running to this corner, you're not covered or concealed, right?
Not by getting there, no, sir.
That's right. And all this is open, so you're not, so the only cover you have is the engine block here for a moment.
But, yes, sir.
Because I think a lot of people think that a vehicle is safe. It's not safe to be in a vehicle when you're in a gun battle, right?
That'd be correct.
And it's not even safe to be behind a vehicle. A vehicle at best is concealment. It's not cover,
Yes, sir.
right? People shoot through vehicles all the time.
That's
the
correct.
engine block is some cover. Would
It
you
is
agree with
some,
that?
I would.
And then the rim, like the wheel rim, where
Could
the
be.
tires are. If you're on your, and there's a tactical way to be on your side to shoot underneath the vehicle. That could be some cover, correct?
I would agree. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And so the only cover in this scenario that we're seeing is some of that vehicle.
The engine block one, yes, sir.
And so if in our scenario, you tried your best and you're running with your handgun to this corner, and if the shooter is running down this way, and you haven't seen this person, by the way, right?
Okay.
You still have no visual on him. You're not just running around this corner at top speed. Is that a fair statement?
Not around the corner. Like I said, once I got to that corner, if I believe the shots were coming from over here,
Mhm.
then once I got to that corner is when I would start wanting to assess the situation better.
And it takes time to assess, right?
It can.
So this is not to scale, but so you hear shots. Let's assume that you observed. You didn't observe, but you listened and you oriented. You made a decision to act, and you said, "I'm just going to go." You run to the corner, and you're going to slow down once you get to the AC unit because you're going to do your best, even though you're not protected, to cut the pie around that building. And now you're on the west side of the building, and you can see how long that is, right?
So if I heard you correctly, did you say cut the pipe before the AC or at the AC?
Well, I mean, you're going to use the AC to try to use that to cut that corner because cutting the pie is just trying to get
Correct.
around the corner.
At that AC, yes, sir. At
Right.
that corner, if that's where that corner would be.
Right. I don't want to fall in front of everybody. You're talking about shooting. Okay, so you try to use this AC to cut the corner of that building, and you have this long building, and then so as you start moving down this building and working, if somebody has a long rifle, who usually wins? A handgun or a long rifle on a straightaway?
It just depends on distance, and it depends on accuracy, and it depends on ability.
If you and somebody were going to get in a gunfight, each of you had a choice, long rifle or handgun, which one would you pick first?
Close quarter, or personally, I mean,
Anywhere.
I'd want a rifle.
Of course you would. Everybody would. And so my point is, so from this long way, the rifle is a more advantageous weapon than a handgun, correct?
From a distance, yes, sir.
And so let's say you cut that corner, and then in our scenario, you see the person go in the building, okay?
Okay.
How they got into a door that should be locked, we'll talk about that in a little while. But then you see them go in. That doesn't mean that they can't go in that building and come right back out and kill you, right? You have to think of that tactically.
They could.
Right. So just because they go in that building, you're still going cautiously. You're trying to, you're like, oh, I hope they don't come back out that building, right? And you're walking all the way down to that door.
So I would think in that scenario, I'd like to think that if I was placed in that scenario, we've already addressed the fact of how I got to the corner.
Yes, sir.
If I see somebody go into that building, I would try to get there as fastly and as tactically sound as possible, trying to get to that threat again.
Would you tactically go out to these cars and get some cover at those cars as you make that corner? Or would you run just directly down the side of that building?
I would try to get there as fast as I could.
Well, I mean, we're speculating. You would not try to get at some cover, concealment in these vehicles and so you can have a better angle at that door just in case he's waiting for you or that person's waiting for you?
I could see somebody doing that. I could,
Right? That would be a tactical decision,
it
right?
could be, yes, sir.
So let's say you get to the edge and the person doesn't come back out and shoot you, right? And so now you're going to have to cut the pie on this door too.
Say it one more time, I'm sorry.
You're going to have to cut the pie again on this entrance door.
Yes, you would have to, tactically approach that doorway, yes, sir, that threshold.
And then you realize it's an outward swinging door. That's different tactically than an inward swinging door.
Yes, sir.
Will you explain to the jury why?
So on an outward swinging door, obviously the door's coming out to you, right? So with an inward swinging door, let me do it the opposite way. With an inward swinging door, you can open that door and still slice that pie, and that door is not really a problem for you. Whereas a door coming towards you, you have to contend with opening that door, keeping it open potentially, and then also entering that room.
Now, real quick before, Jason reminded me of something. Just so people can get a kind of a visual of how big this is. You can see that's a person walking here, right? You can get a, if you don't mind.
Okay, yes,
Yeah. I mean, so that just kind of gives, this is a big, that's a human being. That's a person walking. This is after the fact during the
Okay, yes.
investigation. So there were more cars here. This is not to scale of how many cars were during the incident.
Yes, sir.
But that's a person. So that shows you how big that coming around that corner, coming all the way down, that kind of gives you perspective of the size of a person to that school, right?
Okay.
Okay. And so as you make, you realize that's an outward swinging door. So you're cutting the pie. You're cutting the pie, hoping at some point you're going to move in, and you're going to have to negotiate that outward swinging door, right?
That's correct.
And then you're going to make entrance into a building, right, into a hallway.
Yes, sir.
Now that takes time, right?
As fast as you can make it happen, everybody's got different tactical levels. So
Right.
I would like to think that somebody with much more training than me can get in there probably quicker than I could. But at the end of the day, yes, it takes as long as you can get into that room and address that threat.
You're making a distinction between training, and that's important to do, right?
Yes, sir.
Not just because someone's law enforcement or someone has taken an active shooting class or someone has taken an alert class, that doesn't mean that everybody has the same skill level, right?
I would agree with that.
And so in our scenario, as you navigated that corner and you still have to navigate another corner if you even are familiar with the building of and try to anticipate where this shooter is going, right?
Okay, yes, sir.
Because you don't know. I mean, if someone's shooting, you have no idea where they're going.
That's correct.
Right. And especially if somebody is not familiar with that building, they don't know where they're going. They're hearing stuff, so they have to move cautiously but expeditiously, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you know, in the scope of your investigation, that shooter, his home room was room 111 that he ended up shooting in?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Did you know that shooter, that his home room was room 111 that he ended up going into and shooting up?
I've heard that.
And so it's safe to say in an investigation that shooter had a targeted room. He knew where he was going.
That's possible.
And somebody that never put eyes on him would have no idea where this shooter is going. And the insinuation is that Adrian is supposed to follow the sounds without having any visual on this shooter, right?
I'm not sure what your question on that was.
What I'm saying is you have a person responsible for this horror had a connection to room 111, right?
Yes.
And so it's safe to say, possibility, that was a targeted attack on that room,
Right.
right? And somebody who never put eyes on that shooter, just only heard the shots, is having to guess where this shooter is going, right?
In that scenario, yes. If you didn't know where he was at and you're basing it strictly on sound, you're having to address that as you're going. Yes.
And then you have to apply all the tactics that we've gone along. I mean, just because you hear something, you're gonna tactically try to get there as expeditiously but safely as possible, right?
That's correct.
Because as you said earlier, you have to think about your own safety, not selfishly, but if you are injured or killed, you're no good to people that you're trying to help,
That's correct.
right? Yeah, I mean, and if you had a choice, and it's a reasonable amount of time choice, would you rather have backup or not have backup? As an officer,
Just in general,
in general, yeah, in general terms.
anytime we can have backup, it's always a plus, but that's a generalization.
And if it's in a reasonable amount of time, that's a better tactical decision to make, right?
That could be, but once again, that's a very loose generalization depending on what you're
understand.
faced with.
I get it. And may I approach, Judge?
Yes.
Are you familiar with school policies?
Well, it depends what you're asking, I guess.
Well, I guess, is it reasonable to believe that most schools require their exterior doors to be locked?
I would assume that's correct.
It's a safe assumption,
I would assume.
and it's true. And so in your participation in this investigation, did you come to discover that this door was not even locked?
That's correct.
111 was not locked.
That's correct.
112 was not locked.
That's correct.
The two doors between 111 and 12, there's doors between them.
There is.
That was capable of being locked, right?
Yes, sir.
It was not locked.
One of the doors was open upon our finding. it was
Right. And out of all the scenarios, and we can speculate all day long, one thing that we can all agree on is if that door was locked, it would have stopped the shooter that animal from getting into this building, right?
I can't say that.
You can't say it wouldn't have stopped him?
No, sir, because I can't speak to whether a locked door would have. That door might have stopped him if it was locked, but I can't speak to the fact that he wouldn't have found another way into the school.
I didn't ask that question. My question
sorry,
was,
I
it's
misunderstood.
okay. It's a bad question if you didn't understand it. I'm saying if this door was locked, it would have stopped that animal from getting into the building.
So I'm still hearing it the same way.
If this door was locked.
If that door was locked, he might not have been able to get into that door, but I can't speak to any other doors that might have been unlocked.
Fair enough. Let's go back to our scenario. And let's say those three same officers are still there. Remember those three officers that had line of sight on this guy? And one of those officers that had a long rifle? Remember that?
Yes, sir.
So if that door was locked, knowing that Adrian is on this way over here on the south side, but that you have three officers with line of sight on this guy, if that door was locked, at the very least, it would have delayed this animal from getting into that building.
A locked door there, I believe, yes, would have delayed him, because then at that point, he would have tried to find another, assuming he would have found another entry point.
Do you wish that door was locked?
I think we all wish that door was locked.
We all do. Thank you, sir. That's the witness, Judge.
Starting with Defense Exhibit 9. And the whole concept about cover.
Yes, sir.
If you hear shots coming from this direction or this direction, is this corner covered if you're at the police car?
If the threat is over here,
Yes.
then yes, that building itself would be cover and concealment at that point.
And would it be both cover and concealment all the way up to this housing unit for the air conditioning?
Yes, sir, assuming that that's still where the threat's coming from.
If the threat's coming from here or here,
Yes, sir.
either from sound or from sound and witness. And so when we talk about whether or not this wall is covered, it would depend on if the threat is coming from here, it wouldn't be covered. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Cover just means it's something that protects you from the shooter.
Something, yes, sir, that's correct.
So if the shooter's here, you've got cover all the way to the edge of that AC unit and its fence. Is that correct?
That's correct.
The next thing we talked about is, would you rather have a rifle or a handgun, and who would win in that situation? Rifle in the open or handgun with cover?
You're asking which one I'd rather have? Once again, it depends on the scenario and everything in my mind, but at the end of the day, if I'm having to deal with a threat, either one would be good. But if I had to pick one, I'd pick a rifle.
Okay. But if you have cover, you're protected.
Yes, sir.
And if you have a handgun, it'll reach this distance, will it not?
It would from that corner, yes, sir.
And you don't have to be accurate enough to hit the shooter to distract him
That's a fair statement.
or to delay him
Yes, sir.
while your buddies are coming down from the rec area, right?
That's a fair statement, yes, sir.
That OODA loop doesn't just apply to police officers, does it?
That's correct.
That's-
Humans and gentlemen.
Everybody.
Yes, sir.
So if a police officer is shooting at somebody, then their OODA loop
Absolutely. Would
can be effective.
It would be, yes, sir.
Distracted from their mission
Yes, sir.
until they decide what to do with a police officer shooting at them.
Yes, sir.
Do things like drop a bag full of ammunition
That's a possibility, yes, sir.
if police officers drive up.
Yes, sir.
That's affecting the OODA loop, changing their mind on what to do.
Yes, sir.
So a police officer, just their appearance on the scene is important in an active shooter situation, is it not?
It is.
Saves lives
It can.
by quick action.
Yes, sir.
And quick action is not standing by the vehicle.
If you're just standing at the vehicle and not acting, then that's not quick action.
Standing at the vehicle, waiting for cover
Once,
to come.
once again, depending on the scenario and where the shots are coming from, but yes, sir. I mean, just standing there alone is not taking action.
Okay. Waiting for other people to come.
Yes, sir.
And do they train you in active shooters to wait on other people, or is there such a thing as training about solo entry?
There is training on solo entry, but in general, everybody's trained that you get to the threat, whether you're by yourself or not.
You get to the threat by yourself or not.
Yes, sir.
That's what.
To get to the threat, you have to know where the threat is, right?
I'm sorry?
To get to the threat, you have to know where the threat is, right?
Yes, sir.
And you've come to know now that there was a dispatch of someone at the school with a gun running. Did you get to know that? Did you know that?
I'm not aware of that dispatch.
May I
no, sir.
approach, Judge?
Yes.
And so whoever drove this car, let me represent to you Adrian Gonzales, they drove into this situation, right?
Yes, sir.
They're not way out here,
Yes, sir.
three other officers. That he's into this situation. Did you come to learn that Adrian Gonzales was one of the first officers in this building?
I'm not sure about that. I know he was one of the first ones there, but I'm not sure about in the building.
But if he was in the building, that's taking action, correct? If he ended up in the building, that's taking action. If he's one of the first officers in the building, that's taking action.
Yeah, if he got in the building, that is taking an
Okay.
action.
Well, right, and driving into this scenario, going after the description that's been relayed over the radio, is taking action.
That is an action.
So if someone was reported to have a gun running to a school, and if Adrian Gonzales saw someone running and he drove to the person that he thought was running, that's taking action.
That is taking, yes, sir, that's taking
Now I
action.
want to direct your attention to some decisions and opportunity. So if you have Adrian Gonzales here, the shooter on this side, and 3 officers here, who has better line of sight? Those 3 officers or Adrian Gonzales?
In that scenario, those 3 officers would.
If Adrian has a handgun from this distance, and they have a rifle with line of sight, who has a better opportunity and ability to take out that shooter?
Once again, they have the line of sight, so they're the only ones that couldn't take a shot in that scenario if he's right there in those where you're referring to.
They're the only ones that what?
If you're saying that if Adrian's right there, you asked the question, I believe, if I heard you right, so he has a handgun, who has a better way to make a shot, I believe, him or them? It's only them, because in that scenario, he's by his car.
But you said it specifically. You said they're the only ones that couldn't take a shot.
No. Could take a shot in that
Could take a
scenario
shot,
because
got
they have that line of sight.
Right. And you don't shoot at things you can't see, right?
Correct.
Pass the witness, Judge.
No further questions?
Recall.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, sir, the rule is invoked. You're excused from the subpoena. You're not subject to recall, but do me a favor, don't talk about the case till you're aware it's over.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.